Number one, you got to get customers. And then number two, you got to get the employees to serve those customers.
That's very nice to hear, because that is, then I'm doing my job. I'm trying to nail that point into everybody's brain. Every day I want you to wake up and think about that. And if you're not, if you're thinking about 10 other things, then you're not working on the things that are most important to business. And I did add a third this time, because I've talked about that message before, and I added the point of business is to generate cash. So
Tell us a little more.
Yeah, so, and I don't know if this quite resonates. It's a new thing that I'm really thinking about, but in business, we talk about profits. And I think a lot of people, and I was this way, yes, I know exactly what profit means. I know why I want to generate profit. I know it's going to lead to a better financial situation for me and my family. I get all that stuff, but there's this element where it's easy for us to postpone those future profits or not feel really bad about we don't feel terrible about not making a lot of profits. And what I was trying to do is just change that conversation and say, what profits are really about is they're really about generating cash. And you should feel absolute urgency to generate cash. In fact, if you're not generating cash, you should feel tremendous pain. Why though? Because the cash is how you get more clients. Yep. The cash is how you get more employees. And so every problem you have is solved by generating more cash. As an example, if you're not happy with your team members, they're not reliable, you can't find people that you can actually train them and then they'll follow the training, that is solved by having enough money or a pad in your bank account to give you the courage to go upgrade that individual and get a better person that will actually follow the training. And that will help you build a better company. It'll help you serve your client better. It'll also make your life better. And so I'm really trying to talk about this cash concept, because profit for many of us, we all know what it is. Everybody understands it, but it's also this number on a financial statement that your accountant might give you at the end of the year, and they said, you made this amount of money, and you look at it and say, wait, they said I made $42,000 in profit? There isn't $42,000 in my bank account. Like, it's this kind of disconnected number. And so I'm trying to just change the conversation a bit and say there needs to be this massive urgency to generate cash, because cash will allow you to invest in your business and fix all your problems, so you don't end up getting burned out where you just sort of give up on your dream and don't end up building the business you originally wanted, that you originally said to the world you were going to build.
Yesterday, you also had a framework of the road to 1 million. And you had a checklist. And forgive me, Jonathan, I didn't remember each list. I just remembered get customers and get employees.
Yeah, that was on there.
But you actually had a list of step-by-step. If you want to get to $1 million, here's what you want to do. Can you kind of walk us through that framework?
Yeah, and it was a little bit arbitrary. It'll be different for every company. And there was just 10 points on it. And that those were milestones, as I called them. And they're on this document. That the broader point of that document is that it had your goal, and the goal was to generate cash. It had your daily activities. Your daily activities are find employees, find clients, and then you do have to manage all that. That is on there. And then it had these KPIs that you need to be looking at to know if you're on track. And then I had the milestones. And so some of the milestones, I only left room for 10, and some of them were purely revenue numbers. Get to that first 50,000 in revenue if you're just starting in business. Or it's a big milestone to get to that first 350,000. In fact, that 350 to 500,000 range is what in this industry is the plateau that takes out most companies. Most companies never get past those numbers. Because so the numbers won't be perfectly accurate, but it's directionally accurate. Up to about 350,000, an individual can run a maintenance company and manage all the moving parts themselves. Now, they might be working 80 hours a week, they're exhausted, but they can turn out the billing, they can do the sales, they can manage operations, they can hop on the truck if they have to, they can still be the guy or the gal. $500,000's a little probably better descriptor for the design build industry, because there's a material cost in there and a couple other factors, and so they tend to be able to run a little bit bigger business and still be at the center of it all. After that, it all starts to fall apart. The wheels start to come off. You start to become subpart selling, subpart estimating, subpart all these things, because you're doing too much, and you need people on the team. And so one of the milestones, a couple of them were just simply revenue milestones. And obviously the last was $1 million, because what you were referring to was something I'm creating called a roadmap to $1 million, the step-by-step. Other milestones, I feel very strongly from the beginning, and there's so many milestones that could have been on there, so I had to think about just a few. In the very beginning, it's getting a software solution and getting paid very fast. And you and I have talked about this whole idea of how can you get paid immediately as soon as you do the work. And so from day number one, I encourage people to find a software system because it will reduce a tremendous amount of the work they have to do and just pay the money. It's the cheapest employee you'll ever hire. And then start charging credit cards, getting paid that way and getting paid fast. So that's a milestone.